do this.
Hello, new listeners from future Katsucon. I know you're all out there. I know you found out about us at Katsucon, and you thought, all right, I'm gonna follow that URL on that flyer that you put in my hand and forced me to take after you tricked me into seeing your panel.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe you're someone who is waiting to go to Katsucon tomorrow, and you're listening to this in anticipation of finding out what's going to go down.
Well, for the latter, we're going to talk mostly about stuff you already know, but this weekend in Washington, D.C. is Katsucon 2008. Katsucon is pretty much neck and neck with Otakon for my favorite anime con.
It's not the biggest con, but it's pretty big, and it's pretty awesome in terms of what goes down.
What it lacks in sheer number of people, it makes up for with, as the Japanese would say, guts.
Yeah, I mean, unlike other cons that may be in convention centers, Katsucon still is hardcore, going all night from Friday early when they open until Sunday somewhat late when they close. The con is open, especially the game room, which only closes for a few hours, like an hour or two early Saturday morning for cleanup and restoring and refurbishing.
Yeah, you realize, people, that pretty much Thursday night, the video game room is already going to be up and going, and we're going to be in there playing Rampart.
Not you, though.
Not you. You have to wait.
No, not you. But us. We'll be playing Rampart Thursday night. And perhaps Rock Band, and perhaps Smash Brothers. Who knows?
I shouldn't say this, but I have it on good authority that the Katsucon game room will in fact have the new Smash Brothers.
Yeah, but I don't know if I'm going to play it, though. 'Cause I'm torn. It's like, I could play it. Yeah, but on the other hand, I should wait for the U.S. release to govern the house and then play it.
Yeah, it's tricky.
Straight up from the beginning, like it's supposed to be played.
But at Katsucon, we're going to be in the video game room pretty much the entire con.
Most of the con.
And a good chunk of the front row crew is also going to be at Katsucon this year. They're going to have this kind of mass of tables all next to each other in the Artist Alley, and you might like to look at some of the work they've been doing, because we're kind of the, front of the front row crew in terms of the internet. The rest of them are all doing stuff, and you might like it.
A lot of them are making arts, which will be for sale, and I guess you can buy them, and maybe they can make some money. And if they do, they'll probably make more money at that con than Geeknights has made ever.
Yeah.
That's my guess.
Well, maybe because we never actually made all that swag yet.
No, we haven't made anything.
We'll have it for Otakon, maybe Kineticon.
Maybe. We'll see.
All right, but at this con, we're doing not 1, not 2, not 4, but 6 panels.
I thought you were doing 5.
Well, there's Katsu's Kendo panel.
Oh, okay. All right.
Which we are doing, but doing mostly means we're going to be there while he does it.
Yeah, I'm just going to kind of sit there. Because I missed his one at Otakon.
It was pretty good, but...
I heard it was pretty good.
It was awesome, but my job was basically I introduced him, and then I just kind of stood at the back of the room, and then at the end I said, "Thank you, Katsu," and the crowd cheered. Katsu's panels are easy. But yeah, Friday from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. live too. Katsunori Matsushita, a good friend of ours, member of the front row crew, is running his kendo panel, which he ran something similar to at Otakon. It was hardcore, to put it lightly.
Yeah, all you punk kids, you buy swords in the dealer's room thinking you're all cool because you like swords. And I can understand when I was a kid, swords are way cool. And I just wanted to play with swords and pretend to fight with swords with other people.
In fact, it's a good thing that the money to sword ratio in my life, my desire for swords was very high when my money was very low. But now that my money is very high, my desire for swords is very low. If that had ever not been true, I either would have starved to death or I would have had a lot of swords.
Well, it could have not been true. You could have had a low money and a low desire for swords.
I don't think that could have ever happened.
Okay. Are you saying that desire for swords is inversely proportional to income?
Well, it is possible.
So that if anyone wants to get rich, here's how to get rich by Rim.
Don't buy swords.
Don't like swords. If you hate swords, if you really just want to get rid of swords,
stay the fuck out of Canaria.
You're going to get super rich.
I think it's more that a sword is an implement which can be used to acquire money if you are, maybe, or to get shot.
Anyway,
but
all you punk kids who are liking the swords, if you want to see what the swording is really about, that's what Katsu's going to lay on you.
When Katsu did this
with
panel
some pain added.
At Otakon, people didn't know what to expect, and Katsu didn't even use a microphone. And he was talking.
He doesn't need to use a microphone.
But he didn't talk that loudly. And this was the crowd was silent. And I'm not kidding. They were pretty much on the edges of their seats with rapt attention until he forced them all to leave the room. It was epic. But the real business begins on Friday from 9:30 p.m. until 1 a.m. That is the Geeknights block number 1. from 9:30 to 10:30.
Follow it at 1 a.m. on Saturday. Sleep.
We are running the famous, the classic anime match game that we have run at a lot of cons recently. It has always been standing room only. It's always been crazy.
My prediction, this will be the best anime match game yet. We might have to retire the match game because we won't be able to top it and have to come up with a new game.
That might be true. You should see. We've got all new questions, which we've said at every match game, but this time it's actually true.
Yeah. We have all new questions. We probably have possibly the best match game panel in terms of people who are skilled at the match game, and we'll make it hilarious for you. And we've got a big old chunk of time. Is it 2 hours long?
It's only an hour long, but right after that, for a half hour, we still have the room, and it's pretty much the intermission between that and the main event.
What are we going to do for that intermission?
We figured that out actually about, I don't know, couple hours ago. You'll see. We got a couple things planned, but it should be entertaining to say the least.
All right.
But then from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m., late night Katsucon hosted by Rim and Scott. We've got Greg Ayers and Steve Bennett as our guests. Stevie B is well, if you don't know who Stevie B is, he's one of the few people for whom the word epic really applies when it comes to being an anime fan.
You may have heard many things about this man, but there's one thing that is the only one thing about him that matters, regardless of whether those other things are true or not, is that he is mighty entertaining at the anime conventions.
He's also the best match game contestant we've ever had.
And we will be the catalyst for his entertaining faucet.
I hope he doesn't have any other faucets.
We will ignore those faucets that may or may not exist for the time being.
But we've got a comedy act, we got some stand-up, we got some musical acts, we've got a history lesson at the end. This is going to be a pretty good show,
We got to practice that history lesson.
We got to practice everything. God, we haven't even had a rehearsal of this.
Can we have a rehearsal?
When? Maybe Thursday. Thursday at Katsucon will be the rehearsal for Late Night Katsucon.
You're not invited.
We're so awesome.
All right.
Now then, Saturday at noon, which is pretty much going to be when I wake up, we're going to have a nice laid-back panel. Anime you should see.
Oh, I thought that was going to be breakfast.
Well, we can eat breakfast at it. Maybe we'll get some bagels and bring them to the panel. To trick people into coming.
All right, this is the panel that I have the lowest expectations for. So I'm going to buy a whole bunch. We're going to try to get, I guess, I'm doing this. Trying to get as many donuts as I can. It could be anywhere between 0 and infinity donuts. Right? I don't know how many, but I'm going to try. And if you show up, I will give you a donut.
And in fact, if you were dressed up as Vosh the Stampede, you get 2 donuts.
No, you don't.
What is Vosh?
That's tough shit.
But
I get all the donuts I want because I paid for them.
The past 4 decades have seen a lot of great anime. You've probably seen much less. Now's your chance to learn about the hidden gems, the blockbusters of yesteryear, and the classics for all time.
Why are you reading the ad copy?
I wrote that ad copy, and I'm proud of it.
Great. Okay.
But here's the deal for all of you, because
they wanted us to do a panel.
Well, the con people out there, the people who aren't listening to Geeknights, aren't cool yet. They're gonna. I don't know what they're gonna expect when they come to a panel like this, because panels with titles like this are at every freaking anime con, and they're usually just stupid. And, like, it's a bunch of fanboys who stand up there and they're like, "I like Naruto," and you like Naruto? Yeah, I like Naruto. Let's talk about Naruto. Mm-hmm. So we're not sure what we're gonna do with this panel, but it's gonna be vaguely related to anime that we want you to see. I think it'll be fun.
I think what I'm gonna do is do a lot of audience questioning. I'm like, so why did you come to this panel?
We'll get people up. Be like, all right, what kind of anime? Well, I'm sure there's gonna be someone in the audience who hates anime. We'll get them up and we'll talk to them.
Yeah, we should actually, that's a good idea. Let's get people up there, ask them what anime they like, what they've seen and what they haven't seen, and then tell them what they should see.
Yeah.
Let's do it like that. Instead of just being generic, like everyone should see this, everyone should see that.
Yeah, granted, there are a couple things that everyone should see, but you know what? I'm going to spoil it right now. Cowboy Bebop, Evangelion, Escaflowne, Trigun, Serial Experiments Lane, Full Metal Alchemist, I guess, Utena, Princess Tutu.
Princess Tutu?
Yeah.
What?
You'd be surprised.
No, Fancy Lala before Princess Tutu.
Big O 2.
Big O.
Oh, Big O 2. Those tomatoes.
BTS. Okay.
Anyway.
Keep going with the schedule here.
And then Saturday night from 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. in Live 1, we ran this event as a test and it failed at Kineticon last year. We've revamped it. And now I think we're good to go. It is the Challenger on Fire.
I'm still leery about this event, but we'll go for it anyway. Woo!
The thing is, now we're set up. We're going to have a good 20 contestants up there. We might do things to people who are knocked out of the competition. This is going to be
What are
pretty
we
cool.
going to do to people?
You'll see.
You got some pies ready or something? Clown pistols?
Clown pistols, maybe.
You don't have any clown pistols.
I've been shot at with clown pistols.
Yeah.
All I have to say is there's a 1% chance that Daryl Surratt might appear at this con, and if he does,
try like 0.1% chance.
I don't know. Apparently, the last time when he showed up at Katsucon, when I met him while I was quite drunk, he only went because randomly a bunch of his friends were going, and he just hitched a ride. So that might happen again. I don't know.
I doubt it.
Gerald couldn't tell me if he was going or not. So
whatever.
But then, from 11:30 to 12 to midnight 30 a.m. in Live 3.
So 0:30.
Now notice how
on Sunday.
All our other events are in Live 1 and Live 2, but this one's in Live 3. I think it's kind of like how Otakon puts a certain kind of thing in Video 5 every year. I think Live 3 is going to be special because we did a panel at Otakon last year that is famous or infamous, depending on who you are and who you talk to. But it was standing room only, and people applauded, and only 2 people walked out in disgust. So I can and
we know those 2 people.
Yes, if the only 2 people who walked out in disgust were our friends, I think it was okay. But us along
and some of the people clapping were people from Katsucon who were like, "Please do it again for us."
I think the best part is we got called into like the Otakon staff because they'd heard tell of this kind of epic panel we'd run, and they were curious as to whether or not that epicness exceeded certain boundaries. But half the staff, as we were walking in, were saying, "Man, you guys ran that fast. That was fucking awesome. Oh my God."
Yeah.
But Gekiga. Now, we're going to do a very similar panel to what we did at Otakon. However, Gerald, who is responsible for much of the epicness.
He, in fact, told us that he wanted us to make sure that we gave him credit for the stuff that he did, and we will.
Oh, yes, we definitely will. You see, we're not going to We've gotten a hold of the visual aids that Gerald used, and Scott is studying, and because I couldn't deal with it
anymore. Making a very careful study.
Yes. Well, I studied Mr. Tokai enough.
It's like studying nitroglycerin.
Plutonium. Gekigonium. Ooh.
Yeah.
But let me put it this way. This panel, you've got to be 18, and we're going to be checking ID before you come in. Mm-hmm. And as long as you are not easily offended by things, this panel is going to be awesome. If you're easily offended, do not come to our Gekiga panel. I'm serious. But if you liked Ichi the Killer or Meatball Machine or any of that stuff, or if you have a feeling that everything we just said sounds hilarious, that panel is so up your alley. You have no idea.
So, what are we doing? Anything after that, or is that it?
Well, we had scheduled the Anime Match Game Encore on Sunday from 1 to 2 in Live 1. But I guess this is probably good for us, but all the guests said, we're going to leave early on Sunday because, we want to go home after this con. We'll be tired. You expect us to be up by 1 p.m.? So I don't know if we're going to fill that slot with something else or not. We'll
see the schedule when we get there.
Yeah, right? There's an event before it.
Does the Katsucon schedule still say that?
I don't know. I didn't even look. Well, they rescheduled, and the event before it is supposed to go long, but we might do something in that room. We'll see.
Uh-huh.
Now, beyond all that, in the video game room, it won't be hard to find us, and there might be some Atari 7800 tournaments.
No, I guarantee there will be Atari 700 tournaments, especially probably like late Saturday.
What I want to say to all of you now, I will give $100 cash to anyone who can beat me at a game of Kaboom.
I think you better watch out because there's that guy who can beat Marble Madness in the arcade.
You know what? I'll say this. This is one of those challenges, kind of like when I was drunk last Katsucon, but I was betting people money on Rampart, but I wouldn't take any money if I won. I'd only give them money if I lost. I never lost. But this is one of those ideas where, all right, if nobody wins, then I just proved how awesome I am. And if anyone beats me, I basically paid $100 to find one of the most awesome people in the world and become their friend.
Well, but I know there are people at Katsucon have mad video game skills. I don't think it's a good thing to bet on video game skills at Katsucon unless you are real sure of yourself that you're godlike.
Let me put it this way. When I was very young, my father played Kaboom.
Like,
with
I
me.
wouldn't even bet on my Mega Man 2 or Tetris skills at Katsucon.
I have played Kaboom since I was 4 years old, and I have played it continuously.
Did you watch that guy play Marble Madness? I'm betting he's also that good at other games.
I don't know, Kaboom. It's tricky because even if you have awesome skill, you got to have some special techniques to get the high score.
Yeah, don't use the broken controller.
Maybe.
All right.
So yeah, Katsucon, Washington, D.C. at the Omnishore Motel. If you can't find the Omnishore Motel in Washington, D.C., you probably shouldn't be going to Katsucon.
Yep. And that's it for the news, because I'm not going to look up anything in my RSS feed that hasn't been read in like 2 weeks.
Anyway, things of the day. Now, I'm not going to talk about the underlying thing here, other than that this is not a straight-up Mario Paint music maker, because the Mario Paint music maker is kind of limited. I actually made a bunch of songs in it for a digital audio class at RIT, and this is much more full-featured, but it is otherwise still alive, done in Mario Paint, and it's pretty damn cool.
Yeah, if anyone hasn't found this, there's some Windows program out there that's basically lets you do the Mario Paint music making, but better, without stupid limits put on it by the weakness of the Super Nintendo. And it's pretty good. My favorite is the Swan. What's your favorite?
I don't know. I always liked the Game Boy. I used to write like all these kind of 3-part, 4-part harmonies with Game Boys.
See, the Swan was always mystifying to me, because the Swan is like that techno noise that I love so much, but like I never knew what makes that noise or how to make that
So
noise.
now you know. It's Swans.
Exactly, Swans.
Actually, it's called an orchestra hit.
Whatever, it's a Swan. Swans are where it's at. All right. My thing today is super simple. It's a picture. It's just one picture. It's a Photoshop someone did mashing up two things I like. It's pretty simple, but when I saw it, it made me really happy. And when I look at it again, it still makes me happy. So
I'm smiling just thinking about it. Scott sent it to me and said, check that out. And I said, whoa. Wow.
So you've probably seen it before on your 4chans or whatnot. It's probably mad old and lame and, whatever. But I saw it. I never saw it before, and I like it a lot. So fuck you and fuck your mother.
That was uncalled for.
Whatever.
At least go after Scott Johnson's mother.
All right. But yeah,
the most talked about mother on Geeknights.
if you're liking some Azumanga Dials or maybe some Transformers, you will like this picture. It will make you happy.
So, now, I mentioned this briefly yesterday, but when it comes to a show that reviews any sort of genre or medium or anything like that, there's always kind of those big names, the heavy hitters that you almost don't want to talk about because you almost feel like you're not up to the challenge, like you're never ready, you couldn't do it justice.
Or that it's so big that, like, what is there to say about it? It's like, why, what's the point? It's like if you made a podcast, right, that removed movies, right? What would be the point in reviewing, say, Star Wars Episode 4, Hope, New Hope.
What was that?
New Hope.
Have you ever seen Star Wars?
Yeah, New Hope.
I
I forgot the words before Hope. I was like, Last Hope? Only Hope? No.
Yeah, that star. I got nothing.
All right, but reviewing
I can't
that, it's
read it
like,
right.
what's the point? Who doesn't know? Who hasn't seen it? Who doesn't know everything? What's the point in reviewing it other than, to maybe entertain people who like it a lot, that you can sort of give them a nostalgia
Yeah,
trip?
as I've learned from listening to a lot of movies you should see, is that I pretty much mostly listen to reviews of movies I've already seen, because you almost, when someone else who knows about film or knows about anime or knows about comics is kind of talking about their reading of something from their perspective, you almost relive reading it again, and you, like those moments where you went, you go, again, just from thinking about them.
What are you doing to Captain Billy over there?
I moved him.
You were like squeezing it and shaking
Whiz
it
bang.
around. Yeah, anyway. So,
Yeah, the show's unedited tonight because we got to pack for Katsucon. We're leaving in the morning, and we haven't done shit.
well, we've done shit, but we're doing more. We have
haven't
more
done
shit to
enough.
do. I got to do laundry. I got to eat. I got to do a lot of things. All right. So, the greatest, Rim agrees, and most other people agree, the greatest animated television series to come out of Japan in the history of the world.
Maybe even in the world ever.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
Debatable, but definitely the best animated television series out of Japan ever.
I would even argue that this is among the best television series, animated or not, period.
Top 5 easily.
Yes.
Best television shows ever is obviously Cowboy Bebop. There's no question.
Cowboy Bebop, We're not going to spoil anything tonight because actually...
We're mostly also talking about it because it is now available in a new $40 box. You can get all 26 episodes with surround sound and for $40. This is the deal of the century. If you call yourself an anime fan, you don't own it. There's something wrong with you.
Yes. Now, even more, I said we're not going to spoil anything because I've noticed that unlike Star Wars, which everyone has in fact seen, except for that one girl in my high school who, when we were playing the Star Wars theme when we were freshmen, you know, that da 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 da, the best song in Star Wars. She had the French horn part there, and she played it wrong. And the conductor was like, "Don't read the music. You know how it goes. Just play the Star Wars thing." And she says, "I've never seen Star Wars." And we immediately stopped band and watched Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
So someone went home. He was allowed to drive home, get the DVD, brought it back. We watched Star Wars right there. And
your class was that long that someone had time to drive home, drive back, and sit there for 90 minutes?
Well, one, band was 2 periods together, but two...
That's still only about 90 minutes, right?
Two, Star Wars was important enough to where we just stayed in the room after the bell rang for another half hour, and then the teacher just wrote us all notes saying that band practice got held up for some reason. He made something up.
All right. That's a lot of notes to write. God damn, his hand must be hurting.
Well, all right, you want to get into the details. He wrote one note and sent it to the centralized office, and then all the other teachers could check it later and see that people did in fact have an excuse. But I didn't want to get into the details of the bureaucracy of my high school.
When we're trying to talk about the greatest animated television series ever created.
So... if you have not seen Cowboy Bebop, and there are a lot of anime fans who have not, because
scarily enough, even though it was on Cartoon Network like 7 times.
There's a lot of anime, and two, most anime fans don't. They might go to conventions, but they don't watch a lot of anime, and or they're just getting into it. A lot of anime fans are new, and there aren't a lot of good places to find out what the good anime are. So I can conceive of someone who likes anime, just got into it. I mean, God, when I got to RIT, I'd never heard of Cowboy Bebop.
I never heard of it at all.
And I remember sitting at the first RIT anime club.
I was there too, but I didn't know you and I didn't see you.
The whole front row crew was there, but none of us knew each other.
We were all sitting in separate seats, complete strangers.
It's like one of those scenes in Utena where like it shows the room and then it freezes. And then it kind of like all the people who will eventually be the front row crew are in color and they're all in different spots of the room and everyone else is in black and white. And then like you're looking, that was the day. But anyway. So, and this girl behind me is like, "Oh man, yeah, they're showing 4 different anime tonight. They're showing that episode of Cowboy Bebop. Oh, which one? The one where Spike fights Vicious? Yeah, that's the best one." I'm thinking, Cowboy Bebop.
Now, the name alone was quite appealing to me.
But then the episode where Spike fights Vicious. Now, I heard that and I thought, is that one of those stupid fighting shows? Oh.
It was episode 5, by the way. The last episode of the first DVD.
Now... then, we saw this anime, and I remember when that episode played, I remember thinking right then and there, wow, that was one of the best things I've ever seen.
That was, at the time, the best thing I had ever seen.
Like, I was dumbfounded by how awesome that was.
It's like all the things they showed that night. They showed a bunch of music videos, including White Reflection, none of which I'd ever seen before.
Now, I had seen that, but still, seeing it on a big screen like that instead of like my tiny AVI.
I don't like it as much as other people seem to like it. But anyway, they also showed an episode of Gunsmith Cats, which I'd never seen. And I don't even remember the other things they showed.
I barely remember the rest of that day. All I remember is that I saw something. I
remember it was in room 12000.
Something that was so amazing that I don't know. And then not too long after that, Scott Johnson, who was, one of the executive board people in the club at the time, he decided, all right, I'm going to marathon that Cowboy Bebop.
He had the entire DVD box set and he said, all right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go to building, 8, I think? And he said, we're going to stay here for 2 days and we're going to watch 13 episodes one day and 13 episodes the next day.
And let me tell you,
by God, that's what we did.
There were a lot of people showed up to that. And I remember that pretty much for like the last 3 or 4 episodes, I don't think a single person said a single goddamn word.
No one moved a goddamn muscle.
Like, and an episode would end, everyone would just sit there. No one would even consider getting up to skip the closer or to say anything or to go to the bathroom. It was just, we sat there. And then the show ended and everyone sat there.
Through the credits.
Credits rolled, credits
DVD
ended.
menu came on. Then we started to move around a little bit.
But even then, no one would talk and everyone kind of walked out with just the sense of Like, you know that feeling when you see something really good, you almost don't want to break the silence.
It's like when you're in a museum and there's that amazing painting or sculpture and you don't talk near it because you'll be disturbing other people trying to experience it. It was that kind of thing going on.
And I mean, I've experienced that before, and there have been other shows and movies and things that have done that for me, but Cowboy Bebop did it to such an extent, and not just at the end, but at multiple points throughout the show that, I don't know, the emotional baggage that was thrust into me by certain scenes in Cowboy Bebop lives with me to this day.
All right, so there's nothing wrong with Cowboy Bebop whatsoever. It is completely without flaw. So let us enumerate the things that it has that are fantastic. Number 1, the dub and the original Japanese language are equally awesome.
Seriously.
The English dub, some of the best voice acting I've ever heard. The Japanese, some of the best voice acting I've ever heard. You can't go wrong. You can switch back and forth, and you will not even know or care.
I mean, let me put it this way. The voice of Spike Spiegel in the English dub was what, David Lucas?
David Lucas / whatever his name is, that he keeps using different names, but he's the guy who is also the voice of...
Roger Smith?
Roger Smith, yes. The best English voice actor of anime, period.
Now, at the same time, in the Japanese cast, and these are all big names, but Faye was played by someone particularly
Bulbasaur?
famous. Is also the voice actress for Bulbasaur.
Japanese voice actors for Bulbasaur.
And Misato, and everyone else. Let me put it this way. The cast of Cowboy Bebop, dub and sub, were like some of the most high-powered, amazing talent, and it shows, like, that is the best English dub ever of an anime. I don't think I've ever seen anything that even came close.
And in some of the episodes, the English dub is better than the Japanese dub. And in the early episodes, the Japanese is a little better because the voice actor is still sort of the English voice actor is still sort of figuring it out.
Let me put it this way: the worst voice acting in the English Cowboy Bebop is in the first episode with one side character
that you never see again in the next 25 episodes.
And pretty much by the time you hit episode 7 or 8, the voice actors have really gotten into it. And there's a scene, and there's a scene near the end where a character is talking to another character. I'm obviously, spoilers, whatever. Spoiling Cowboy Bebop, spoiling anything about Cowboy Bebop is a shitty thing to do.
Yeah.
Because Cowboy Bebop is amazing. And if you have not seen Cowboy Bebop, we're not going to spoil it tonight, but for the love of God, do not risk having the show ruined for you. You need to watch it as soon as possible. I cannot stress that enough.
And the show has sort of like a hold on you. If you start watching and you have more of it available, you won't stop unless you really have to do something else.
Yeah, I remember we just moved back into RIT after like a summer vacation, and we had a box set sitting there for some reason, and we watched a couple episodes, like, yeah, let's watch some Cowboy Bebop and then play some Counter-Strike. And then, episode 26 ended and school started.
8 hours later, we just watched the last episode.
But there's a scene near the end, and this is some of the best where a character is trying to convince another character not to go somewhere. And the character is just starts shooting a gun into the air, into the ceiling on a ship. And that scene and the voice acting of all the parties involved, I think that's the best acting. Well, that's some of the best acting I've ever heard or seen in my life. And you might think, this is
the best acting, period. It's definitely the best voice acting in an anime.
Well, some of that. I didn't say the best. I had to qualify. Some of the best. That was top-notch acting.
It was top-notch acting for sure.
And I'm being very evasive, but you'll know the scene because I showed Cowboy Bebop. I lent it to someone at my work way back when I worked at IBM who didn't know much about anime, but his kid was into it. So I told him to watch Cowboy Bebop. And after he'd finished, he came back to work next. He came to my office, and he basically just kept talking about that scene and about how amazing it was. Now he's seen, like, there's this anime and it's amazing, and that was like the best thing ever, and he couldn't believe, and blah, 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 blah. And I had to break it to him that was pretty much the best thing. So
yeah,
it's all downhill from there.
Yep. All right, the next thing that is awesome about Cowboy Bebop is the animation is awesome. It is like made by Sunrise, who are the people who did the Batmans and the Big O's and the Gundams. I don't see anything wrong with this animation. In fact, this is from 1998. I watched it now on DVD. Still looks fantastic. He could have been made last year, and I would have believed you.
This show is the character, like, some of the characters are on model perfectly all the time. Like, everything is just perfect. Every scene, every detail, every little bit is just right there.
And you watch some of like the action scenes with his fighting and kung fu moves going on, and they animated the kung fu. It's like a kung fu movie. The kind of motion and energy you get out of the animation.
Let's get right into that. The fights, everything that's choreographed in this show is choreographed to a degree that is almost excessive. Like it is like the first episode is a pale example, but it's a good example of suddenly there's a fight scene where two characters are fighting with each other around a table and like in this outside cantina cafe. And that, as cool as that is, that doesn't even hold a candle to pretty much the rest of the show.
Yeah.
I mean, like the Perot episode, the fights in that episode, man.
That's the Batman episode.
Yeah, Batman.
Like, if you've seen Batman the Animated Series, the original good one, and then you see that episode, you'll know the same people made both these shows. There's no question in your mind. Even someone who knows nothing about art can recognize that.
But the ship designs, the character designs, everything is just amazing.
Yep. All right. The third thing that is awesome about Cowboy Bebop is that it has the best music probably of any anime that has ever existed.
Now, we're not going to tell the whole story, but Yoko Kanno did the music for Cowboy. Yoko Kanno is pretty much the best composer for anime. And I think that she stands as a great composer independent of anime, independent of any soundtrack she's done. Her symphonic works rival the people who write symphonic works and nothing but symphonic works for a living. And yet she is also capable of doing things that are completely 180 degrees away from that.
And not to mention that it is all the music is performed by the Seatbelts, who would otherwise be unknown without Cowboy Bebop, but instead I have pretty much every Cowboy Bebop MP3 there is because they're so fantastic.
It is not all performed by the Seatbelts.
And most of it is.
But you know what? When you watch the show, there's certain stuff like the Walk in the Rain song and the Real Folk Blues. And even from the movie, though I'm not going to talk about the movie, but not tonight. That's well out of the scope of this. But there's some good freaking music in that show.
Yeah.
And also, I point out that Yoko Kanno has scored other great, amazing anime, and her effort in Cowboy Bebop was up to par with all of those, and all of those were up to par with Cowboy Bebop.
I think Cowboy Bebop is slightly above a lot of the other shows.
I submit that Escaflowne has an absolutely amazing soundtrack.
I didn't say it doesn't. I think Cowboy Bebop one's still just better by a little bit.
Well, let me put it this way.
And some of the other things she's done have not been as great as Escaflowne either.
It's because Cowboy Bebop is more like edgy and catchy, and it's more like thematic for the scenes, but in Escaflowne, it's much more symphonic and much more. It's a totally different kind of music that she wrote.
Yeah. Anyway, so what else is so awesome about Cowboy Bebop?
Well,
perhaps the story and the characters.
Now, there's an interesting thing about Cowboy Bebop because they're basically, if you take out certain episodes from the show, and there aren't that many of them, you can watch the whole show, and while characters progress and character relationships and all these sorts of things in the world progress, the plot doesn't, there's no real plot, and it's basically just an episodic show. You can pick any one episode, watch it, and in and of itself, knowing nothing about the universe, knowing nothing about the characters, is an enjoyable episode. You can watch any one of these episodes.
Yeah, they're really only episode 5, episodes 12 and 13, or is it 13 or 14? I forget. There's 2 episodes in the middle, episode 5, and a group of episodes at the end. And pretty much none of the episodes really are, plot. It's not a serial plot like a Gundam show where each episode has to be watched in order. I mean, that helps because, something will happen to one character in one episode and then they'll bring it up in a future one, or they'll teach you something about the universe and then talk about that or make a reference to it in a later episode. But it's not necessary. Most of the episodes, you can just watch, never having seen or known anything about Cowboy Bebop. You can just take episode 20 and just fucking watch it, not knowing shit. And it'll totally work, even if you know nothing.
Now, right along those lines, one of the greatest strengths of Cowboy Bebop, and again, most of my examples I have to avoid mentioning because a lot of what I have to say would involve spoilers, but basically, Cowboy Bebop is a character-driven show. Now, sometimes people worry about words like that because there's character-driven shows and plot-driven shows, and usually a plot-driven show means the characters are bullshit character designs that are just there to have the plot. And a character-driven show means, well, there's no setting.
Yeah, it's just like Azumanga Daioh would be a character-driven show. It's just these people, you look at the characters do the same thing every time.
Cowboy Bebop
that's it.
Has a setting that in and of itself could be a show. The setting alone is so rich and so detailed, and there's so much plot there. There are the plots for 3 or 4 solid full-season anime in this world that are kind of touched on by Cowboy Bebop. But
you know how a lot of nerdy things like the Forgotten Realms or or Star Wars or Star Trek, right, or whatever, it's all about setting. And these nerds, they go on and on about the setting and the history of this universe, and that they're really big into that. It's like the thing they love more than anything is a show or some sort of series of novels or any work that really fleshes out a setting in incredible detail from beginning to end, as far back into the future and as far into the past as they can possibly get, with everything. And that's what they love. Cowboy Bebop simultaneously makes those people happy and also gives them a giant finger, because they make this incredibly detailed universe that could have this incredibly huge past and incredibly huge future that's super fleshed out, but all they do is tell a story about some characters in that universe, and they mostly ignore all that really big continuity kind of stuff that nerds love.
It's just that the story of Cowboy Bebop is the story of these people. It is a story about these 5, 6, 7 people who grow and change and learn, and that's it. That's what the show is. Everything else, every single thing in this show, the plot, the whatever, is just a conduit for watching these characters evolve and empathizing with them, and then finding out how this all comes together with them in the end.
Yeah.
There's the kind of background plot. There's an incident that happened in the world a long time ago.
Well, it's not really a spoiler because it doesn't matter, because the show's about the characters.
Well, I want to avoid talking about specifics just anyway, because I think it...
All right. But anyway, before the show began, there was some sort of explosion of some sort, right? And then during the show, there are certain episodes in which the plot of that one episode only sort of revolves around the results of that thing that happened way before the show started that had nothing to do with these characters. And sometimes it won't even be the plot of the episode. It'll just be like a little touch, like something that happens in one scene. And, you won't even realize that, oh, that's because of this thing that happened in the past, unless you really pay fucking close attention. And it's just, it's great.
Yep. It's the idea here is that Cowboy Bebop is a story about these characters. And the mistake that would have ruined Cowboy Bebop would have been that if these characters were central to the plot, the overarching epic plot of the world and everything going on, the epic we're going to save the world plot that almost most anime are about. The show is just about these people.
Yeah, there is a save the world thing going on somewhere. Maybe it happened already. You don't even know. But instead, you just see these people who happen to be dealing with their own bullshit, and then they deal with their own bullshit, and then the show's over.
A real good example of that, this is such a minor spoiler, I think it's worth it just to illustrate the point, is in the eco-terrorism episode.
Mm-hmm.
How what the main characters do, we're going to save the world, didn't mean jack. The government just fixed it.
Yep.
Bink, government just did it.
Yep.
Okay,
so let's actually hear the show. The main characters of the show are Spike, badass kung fu bounty hunter; Jet, ex-cop bounty hunting partner;
Faye Valentine, a woman with she's almost like a noir-esque kind of. She's a woman with a mystery in her past and some sort of dark secret and some debts, like a femme fatale.
Yep, and she likes to gamble and also be naughty. And Ed, who sort of does. Some people don't like Ed because it doesn't fit, but I think Ed is amazing.
I think Ed is critical to that show, and not from a plot perspective, but I can't say why.
Yeah, but Ed is basically a hacker. This young girl, was she 10 maybe? No, 14. I can't even tell.
I'd say that Ein is just as much of a character.
Ein is. I was gonna get to Ein.
Okay.
And Ed is a hacker who's the ultimate hacker, but she always speaks in rhyme and is sort of quirky. And then you have Ein, the dog, who shows up, I think, in episode 2, I believe. It's just the dog that's on the ship. And they're all on this ship, the Bebop, going around bounty hunting. They have their own little fighter ships, which are also cool.
Now, you might think it's and some people have said this, that Firefly is a little bit like that. And I've heard talk that there might have been some
I don't think Firefly's about bounty hunters.
No, it's not. But in terms of the idea of a story that just follows people, and you're in this ship and they're traveling together doing whatever they do, and the drama is all from these people's interactions with each other as opposed to the plot of some world.
Well, it's their interaction with each other, and also each episode is sort of, in a way, borrows from Galaxy Express 39 TV, where there's some, sometimes they'll be at one planet, sometimes at another, because they can fly all over the galaxy or universe. Who even knows, right? I guess they go to Ganymede sometimes. Where's Ganymede? So I guess it stays within the solar system, right? But anyway, they fly all around hunting bounties, and each bounty sort of has its own little plot, and that's why the show is episodic. And some of the plots are really, they could make movies out of those plots, but instead they put them in a less than 30-minute episode.
Now, we talked about, the characters, and there's so many, these characters, and we gave you a very superficial overview, but these characters are three-dimensional to a degree that is almost, it's almost frightening how much you'll empathize.
Yeah, well, I think the reason that happens in this show so much is because a lot of other shows, they will sort of have a big cast, and Cowboy Bebop, they might have in any one episode, you'll have plenty of characters, but most of them will be just for that one episode, and you really only have a very small cast, less than 10, less than 5 even, they get significant screen time. It is really only the 4 when you really think about it, because Ein, while he's important, is just a dog, and he goes woof, 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 right? And it's just 4. So when you've only got 4, you put all your effort into them, you can really build it up, instead of having to, sort of spread the peanut butter thin across, maybe 10.
But at the same time, almost every episode kind of has its own cast. There'll be these characters that are introduced, and pretty much all the side characters that are pivotal to an episode or that get screen time or FaceTime or, speaking lines.
You know
and
their
all
name.
That. Yeah, they're just as fleshed out as the main characters. The only thing they lack is enough screen time to see all of it, but it's obvious that it's there.
Yeah, it's sort of magical sometimes how they'll bring in a character you've never seen before ever. And then suddenly, it's like their main character in the show that's been in every episode. Like, they flesh them out so well. It's just the character design all really fits every character that, they make. And, what they usually will show you that character, like, they'll give them a scene or two separate from the main characters to sort of, build them up a bit. And then suddenly, when the stuff happens, you're like, oh, shit. Oh, man.
Flow like water.
Yeah, that's the best example, I think, is the flow like water guy.
I think an equally important one is Gren.
Yeah.
And even the duo in the first episode.
Yeah.
Because that's a movie by itself. Actually, this is what I want to talk about, because this is like the biggest thing about Cowboy Bebop. And I think we're going to do a show in the future just about this. But episode 1, the very first episode of Cowboy Bebop, in and of itself is like this masterpiece, even beyond a lot of the other episodes, just in the sense that it's a movie in and of itself. You could take that and make it a movie, and it's perfect. And
it's less than 30 minutes.
And it's like this cyclical, it's a cycle, and it kind of ends where it began, and yet it introduces everything you need to know about the show. And it's
2 of the main characters aren't even in the show yet. And
that episode is absolutely amazing, and how it's composed and how it's put together. Every single detail is there. Just everything that happens conveys something. There is nothing extraneous in the first episode of Cowboy Bebop.
Nope. And there is the Cowboy Bebop movie, which we're not going to talk about, but the movie's a great movie. But it's really just a long episode of Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah, pretty much.
With some extended action scenes and whatnot. It's sort of like, well, you finished the show and you want another episode. Here's another episode.
And it takes place in the midst of the show. So you can just watch the movie if you want. It doesn't spoil anything.
Yeah, if you look online, they'll tell you, like, watch the movie in between this episode and this episode, and it'll make sense. And like, okay, sure.
But, man... and we're watching Cowboy Bebop again because it's hard not to when it's sitting right there.
I bought it for $40. I popped it in, and you're gonna keep fucking watching it.
I have a lot of trouble not exclaiming periodically about how great the show is when I'm watching it again, and just going, "Oh man, I remember that."
And this time I'm seeing more in this show than I've ever seen before. There's things that I can't believe I missed in previous watchings.
Yep. I mean, it's not like Utena, where you watch the show 100 times and you still see new things.
Yeah, it's not that of a, deep, there's not heavy, hard to figure out sort of end of Evangelion type stuff going on, but there's a lot of symbolism, and there's a lot of references and coincidences and connections between things, and they're not hard to notice. They're pretty in your face, but I didn't notice them all before.
I don't know what else I could say. This show is
without just describing the plot
or just
peeing all over yourself,
something like that. The show will affect you. I mean, it is hard to not react emotionally, not just to the end, not just to like scene, but to much of the show, and in fact, almost to every episode.
Almost every episode.
I mean, some episodes
the
are
alien
more-
episode, you can get away.
Yes, or
And also the mushroom episode.
Mushroom Samba.
Mushroom Samba.
Mushroom Samba. Oh,
That's got to be the third best episode in the show.
hands down.
Yeah.
That episode.
And
But
the chess episode, I think, is not so good, but whatever.
yeah, I mean, the thing is, the worst episodes of Cowboy Bebop are amazing.
Yeah, the chess episode is
the
better
best-
than most other anime.
And the best episodes will make you react to an emotional level that you might not be comfortable with. I mean, I talk about how I cry at anime a lot, and I cried. You know what? I'll say this. I cried it a bunch of times throughout Cowboy Bebop. But there were some scenes when it was almost to the point where I couldn't cry. That would, like, crying wouldn't have done it justice.
Yeah. What about you going to talk about how the show originally aired and they ruined it?
Oh yeah, when Cowboy Bebop,
Cowboy Bebop has had some troubles.
Cowboy Bebop was made in like 1998, and they tried to broadcast
It's a 10-year-old show, people. 10 years.
on TV Tokyo, and the show was edgy for the time, too edgy, too violent, too serious. So they actually only showed 5 episodes.
Which 5?
Episode 2, 3, 7, 15, and 18. So like just these random
So
like,
they had it all finished, but they only showed 5.
and then it wasn't until 1999 that they showed Cowboy Bebop in its entirety, and even then they showed it on Wow Wow satellite.
Mm-hmm.
And when it was shown in America too, they actually edited a couple
They
episodes.
took out some of the episodes, like the one with Teddy Bomber the terrorist. They took
Yep.
that one out. And there's another one with the kid.
Yep, well,
They took that one out.
Yes, because the episode ends with something that is not cool to be shown on American TV.
Nope.
And they also edited episode 13
Yep.
somewhat heavily. And this show is now. My idea is that this show should be promoted and then shown on primetime TV in the U.S., and that would push anime into the
This
mainstream
is a
like nothing
show
ever could.
this is a show that every human being who is mature enough to understand and watch it will enjoy. I've never met anyone who didn't watch this and go, "Oh man, this is great," unless they didn't understand it or something. But the vast majority of human beings in Western society will watch this and enjoy it and love it. There's more than anything I've ever seen. Even people who don't like anime, have no interest in anime, you can have them watch this show and they'll be like, "Oh man, it's as good as all those shows you're watching on HBO that everyone goes nuts over."
Better.
Oh, better, that's for sure.
Yes.
But I'm talking about, it's in the same kind of thing.
And I mean, I've shown this to my parents. I've shown it to a lot of people who would never watch anime in their life. And they love it. My dad loved this show.
Yep.
Your dad will love it too. Dads like this show, and so do moms.
Moms and dads watching the Cowboy Bebops.
I think we should end there because I have to pack for Katsucon.
I got to do more laundry.
But seriously, if you have not seen Cowboy Bebop, watch it. It might sound like, oh, Raymond Scott, you're just gushing over the show because you like it. No.
Well, there's not much else you can do in an episode about Cowboy Bebop except analyze or gush. That's really your only 2 options.
But I feel like, and I think a lot of people, I may
We'll
or may
analyze
not.
later.
I may or may not be prone to exaggeration at many points in my life. I don't think I've exaggerated at all.
I think you've under-exaggerated.
This show is one
You
of
didn't
the...
exaggerate enough to reach the truth.
This show is the pinnacle of anime. I mean, there are great shows that came out after this. There are great shows that came out before it. But Cowboy Bebop was the first and only show ever in any medium I've ever seen that had the balls to say openly and straight up.
In episode, I think 13 or 14, every episode they have the eye catch, the thing that they show, and then there's a commercial, and then they show the eye catch again. In episode 13 or 14, I forget which one. It's either part 1 or part 2 of Jupiter Jazz, right? They show the eye catch says right on it in English, even though it's a Japanese show. In English, in the eye catch, they write the show that will create a new genre,
Shall hereby be known as Cowboy, or something like that.
something like that. And
They had the balls. I mean, think about it. If you see a show and the show's like, yeah, we created a new genre. Yeah, that's immediately sets off the bullshit pretension detector.
it's like, wow, that's like saying I am so great, but that's beyond saying I am so great. That's like if I went up and I said, yeah, I'm a better radio guy than Howard Stern times 10.
No, that's like I have changed radio. Radio is now a different thing because of me.
Yes.
You know what?
It's like putting yourself on the artistic level as like Michelangelo. Like sculpture and painting are different because of me. The world is different because of this thing. One work of art that I have created is that great.
And you know what? I can find no fault with Cowboy Bebop saying that.
No, they said it and they put it right there, and you read it and you go, "Yep, you did. Way to know. Way to know what you did." Because most people don't, like, Michelangelo, did he really know how awesome he was? Did he really?
I think Da Vinci knew how awesome he was.
Well, Da Vinci's a different story, but
yeah,
it's very rare that someone is awesome, knows how awesome they are, whips out their balls, rubs them in your face, and says, "Look how awesome I am." And you say, "Yup, your balls sure are awesome. I cannot deny. Give me more."
So, great. But Cowboy Bebop, the pinnacle, the peak of anime. I look forward. I hope that at some point in my life, someone makes a show that I can honestly say is better than Cowboy Bebop.
Really, if I was making anime, I'd basically have those same people try to make more shows. And I mean, Shinichiro Watanabe, who's the director, made Samurai Champloo also.
Samurai Champloo
is awesome.
It tried, but
but it wasn't as good as Cowboy Bebop. But it was still awesome.
Yeah, but someday I'd like to be able to say, wow, that show was better than Cowboy Bebop. And with the exception of maybe 5 or 6 shows that came close, nothing's even been in the same ballpark.
Not even close. I mean, if I was making anime, I'd have a really hard time because anything they put in front of me, I'd watch it and I'd say, was that as good as Cowboy Bebop? And if it wasn't, I wouldn't let them put it out. I would just keep making them work until they made something better. And it would probably sit there until they died, making no money.
All right, so on that note, we will hopefully see many of you at Katsucon. And right now, I'm going to pack up the Geeknights Road kit and put it in Scott's car. This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via Audio. Just click the link that says "Send me an audio" on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.